Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to another edition of E-Heroes. For those paying attention, this is episode 219. Wow. Anyway, for all those on your entrepreneurial journey who kind of are constantly battling, that refining your marketing message thing, I brought on a great guest, Laura Johnston, and we're going to talk about that because she's gone on this journey just like every one of us. She's experienced a lot of pain and growth and success. And so we're going to talk about that. So welcome, Laura, and thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Rob. It's a pleasure. So far, it's a pleasure. Now,
That's
I
a,
know,
yeah.
yeah, it might get more painful as we go, I'm sure.
But we talk about painful, and you were in the dental space for a long time, and they're not one of my favorite types of people because of the pain associated. So how do you market a service like that? Because as we spoke off screen and off air, and a lot of my clients know that it's not just know, like, and trust, but to feel safe. And a lot of times people just don't feel safe with dentists.
Well, that's an interesting question, Rob.
You
I've
don't
been
have
in
to answer it today.
I've been in the industry for so long. I just have come across nothing but really great people in the industry. They're all building a business just like you and I, and it is complex. There's so many practices across the country, and standing out with a message of where people can feel, like you said, safe. And there is a lot of dental fear, right? But yeah, like anyone else, know, like, and trust. Like, how do you get out into the community? How do you show up? And what is your patient experience like, so that you get lovely referrals from your current patients? So
Well,
yeah,
how do
it's an
you,
industry that doesn't always have a good feel.
what do you do when a practitioner approaches you? I mean, they need help. So, what is normally their frequently asked question?
Well, I think the frequently asked question is usually relates to PPOs. We live in a very heavy insurance related medical and dental, and now it's even approaching pets. There's
Yeah.
pet insurance. Who knew? So I think that that's the biggest struggle that they deal with. Keeping compliant, dealing, not losing all of their money to write-offs and fees associated with insurance plans.
Yeah, I know a few of them have started their own, not say pay as you go, but they have payment option
Yeah,
type packages because they want to get people off the insurance. They want to get them, to come in and say, hey, this is going to cost you $200 a month for your family, and they got people locked in, and they don't have to give them money to the insurance.
yeah, I love that as an option. There's a variety of in-house plans, insurance plans that practitioners use. Um, One of the things we do is analyze their PPO situation. Where are they actually making money? Because the tendency is to just want to take them all, so that you can attract every possible patient out there. But I think it's really wise to identify who your ideal patient is
Mhm.
and where they're coming from, and do a little bit of analysis before you accept every possible insurance plan, because all it does is create work for your team,
Right.
and it's not as profitable as you think.
No, and dealing with insurance is getting to be a rather pain in the rear, for not only dentists but for doctors and hospitals, is because the insurance companies will dictate how much you're going to get paid, and then they're going to say, well, we're not going to pay you in 90 days. We're going to make you wait 6 months.
Right.
And you're like, well, wait a minute, you just reduced my $100 fee down to $15, and you make me wait 6 months to get it.
Yeah. The practitioners are held hostage, and you're right, in medical and dental, totally held hostage, and by a person. Usually, they get on the phone to that doesn't know anything about the procedure, the treatment plan, or what's necessary. You know, so it's probably the most frustrating part of running a practice, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, But you've had other frustrations. It's like we all have, right? And
Oh, yes.
and you know, you were in this industry for many many years, and you decided, okay, I'm gonna go work for another firm to see what they could help me with, or help me grow in some way. But it didn't pan out the way you thought.
Yeah, so I spoke with you, I kind of was married into the dental space, and I was fortunate enough to come across someone who just got me really excited about coaching, business coaching in general, everything from lead gen to, um, you know, team related things and organizational health. And but there was a component that I felt like was really missing. It was in that firm, and that was the leadership space. So I kind of dedicated myself to honing my skills in the leadership and team culture space, and I enjoyed it so much. But then, like you said, bless you, going back to refining your message is very difficult when you're speaking to everyone. And so I ended up back in the dental space. And all right, bud.
Oh, I'm gonna die on this call. I mean, I can't get rid of this cough. It's just terrible.
Oh, dang it.
Yeah.
The COVID cough.
No,
All right.
well, I had COVID last year, so it's just, I'm in Pennsylvania, so it's like allergy season here, and all the trees, the leaves are falling, and yeah, it
Yeah.
just kills me. I want to move, but can't do
Well, I'm in Dallas today. It's a lovely, gorgeous day here, but I live in Charleston. Uh, yeah. So there's a lot of great places to live. Maybe you need to find a new one.
it. Yeah, can't take the kids and the family, and they
Well,
want, they
yeah,
want to stay.
don't want to leave them behind.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think refining your message for your industry is can be very difficult. And that was, even though I ended up back in the dental space, which I love the community. I love my colleagues as well as clients. And so it's been a great space for me.
Mhm.
Um, but still, Rob, finding your people, uh, having a clear message for them, like you even said, you looked me up, but you still found old websites for me. So,
Mhm.
so really dialing in that your messaging and being clear and where people can find you is not an easy task.
Well, and I'm not saying that I confuse people. I do, because I have my brand, my marketing, which is my business is on Spock Media, but then I have the podcast, it's E-Heroes, and I have a book series called Rob Versus, and I write other books for other people, and people are like, well, Rob, you seem to do a lot of things, and I'm like, well, yeah, I have ADD, so I have to do all these things to keep me busy, or at least perceived busy. And I think that happens to a lot of people,
Yeah.
especially entrepreneurs. I love helping people market, but my primary superpower is sarcasm. So if I can make them laugh, if I can make them cry, if I can, like I said off air, if I can get a restraining order against me, hey, that's great, because you know what? They're taking action of some sort.
Right.
But the more they know, like, trust, and feel safe with me, they're going to say, hey, Rob, can you help me with my website? Can you help me with my marketing? Can you help me to do this and this and this? And I have a team of people that can jump in. They're ready to help. And so sometimes, we have to hone in on that one thing that makes us that personal brand just explode. And then people are like, oh yeah, okay. I know you do all this other stuff. Let's just do it. And for you, that superpower is dental coaching.
Yeah, so we're refining our message even more and kind of trying to look at what is that one thing we're focusing on. And so we have launched our signature service, which is 90 days to 100K, where in a 90-day, a lot of dental coaching programs and consulting are very long term and expensive. So
Hmm.
we're trying to collapse time a little bit for them and make it affordable while we uncover money that's being left on the table, whether it be through ineffective PPO programs, um, coding issues, whether it be miscoded or uncoded treatments. There's so many little places, little nuances in a dental practice where when you're when you're that person inside the jar, it's really hard to see the label. So we just like to give them a really comprehensive snapshot of where they're at, help them find clarity about where they're going, and while we're at it, uncover money.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, for me, making that $100,000, you know, in a quarter was like dream come true because you know before I started this coaching business, and I've been doing this for almost 20 years, but I had a carpet cleaning business that I overlapped, and I started that in 1995, ran that for almost 19 years,
Oh, wow.
and I started this service in 2001. So there was a few years of overlap, and the cleaning business, although I made money, most carpet cleaners can never exceed $100,000.
Right.
And so when you transition out of that service-based business into a coaching service, you know, that first time I made $100,000 in a quarter, I was like, yeah, I made it. And you know, I took the kids to Disney World and we had a blast and so yeah,
But then you say that's not enough. So
it's
we
not enough.
realize that the goal really is not about the destination. It's just about continual growth. You know, the
Right.
goal is always going to um, morph and grow and change, and so it's. I think more of it is about being able to enjoy the journey. And so, you know, that's one of the things that I like to dig into. If you're going to be in practice for 30 years, you better enjoy the journey. And so we try to, you know, find some ways to make the culture in their practice, refine that, have them recognize that they're ultimately the ones who are creating that, right? That's
Right.
the leadership development part, is that you take control of the culture that is in your practice, because otherwise it's going to be imposed upon you.
Right. And the thing is that in a dental practice, 90 days to 100K doesn't seem like a lot. It's baby steps, but it provides them the systems that they need that, you know, in a year or 2 years, they're doing over $1 million. But to say, hey, we can get you $1 million in 90 days, it's such an enormous goal that they can't see.
Right.
Whereas they see, hey, 100K, I could do that. Okay, no problem. And then it's the next step, the next step. And I think that's
Well, and it's 100K that's already theirs. That's what
Mhm.
I love. It's 100K that's already yours.
Mhm.
It just gets eaten up through these little maybe poor training for their team, right? So all these little places where it gets eaten up, um, and it's in perpetuity, right? Because once you find it, then it's repeatable.
Mhm.
And so uh, it just gives them that, where are you at now? Let's refine where you're at now so that you can grow in a sustainable way. And yeah, of course the goal is to get um, for most practices is to grow in revenue, as well as profitability. It's very expensive to get into the dental space. Uh, Education is outrageous. And so many of them come in so much debt. So every little nickel that they
Mhm.
can add to their bottom line and get into a better space is good, right?
You know, there's several dental practices around here that only work 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday, and they give their staff, you know, 3-day weekends. But you know, there's Monday through Thursday, they're working 10-hour days,
Right.
and you know, but I know of one that I used to clean for when I had the cleaning business, and it was just the systems that he had in there were just phenomenal. He had and you never waited more than a few minutes in the waiting room.
Nice.
And you know, but then you go into another place that's not very well run. You're sitting in the waiting room for 45 minutes and you're like, this is horrible. I would rather pay more money to just skip the line and go right in.
Yeah, it's interesting because I hosted an event in Charleston back in June. And as a part of my marketing, I literally went and visited hundreds of practices, just bringing them my invitation. And wow, you're absolutely right. There's some practices you walk in, you just feel good. It's beautiful. The environment is lovely. And you talk about dental fear. Well, providing a space that feels lovely is a great step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Because some of those I went into, it's like, oh my word, is sterile, awful feeling as you go in. So I do think that, it's important to create an environment. It's not just about your people, but it's about the feeling that you get when you walk in the door. And I think that's important, and an easy way to make your patient's experience better for sure.
Now we met at Steve's Speakeasy, and I've
Yes.
mentioned Steve on these episodes before. I've had Steve on the show a couple times,
Nice.
and so what did you take from the Speakeasy that you could immediately put into your practice?
So I've done a lot with what I learned from Steve. Of course, clarity. Back in the early, I went to 5 of his events, and I
I'm
enjoyed
sorry.
all of them. Yeah, I enjoyed the brutal, uh, you know, questions that he would ask to help me get to some clarity. So I really enjoyed that. I think he brings amazing people in the room. That's how I met you.
Mhm.
Um, and we've done some ad stuff with Ulrich, um, with the YouTube ads and things. So
Mhm.
we have met Arhu in his room many times, and so I just enjoy the collaboration, the community.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, it was always a great experience for me. I'm looking forward to the next time I can go back. I haven't been to the last couple, so
No, I was at Speakeasy in San Francisco in 2019, and then the one in 2020 in San Diego, and they're always different. You know, the one in 2019, I don't know if you were there, but he had us tour the Tesla factory, and
oh, I missed that
that
one.
one was really neat, and we learned a lot, and I have a deeper understanding of Elon Musk, how he
Mhm.
thinks, and but I think in all that, we look at all of our businesses and we say, okay, yeah, um, I like that guy for that. I like this guy for this. Let me see if I can take some of those ideas and make it into a system that I can
Yeah,
work with. And that was me 20 some years ago. I met Joe Polish and went through his whole marketing thing, and that's how I elevated my cleaning into a coaching company.
oh,
And
interesting. Okay.
but I didn't like all the ideas, you know. So I took the ones that resonated with me, made them my own, put my own spin on them. And, yeah, granted, I write a lot of books, but I also read a lot of books and I take some of the ideas out of there. And just like your dental practice, those are ideas and concepts that probably can be adapted to any industry out there.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And that's what you kind of learn. Speaking of the great things that I learned in being at some of those speakeasies, is you're there with a bunch of entrepreneurs, and like you said, you kind of pull these bits and pieces that make sense for you. But you also realize that it's hard for everyone. I have yet to meet somebody who hasn't struggled as they're creating. Nobody really has a pile of cash fall in their lap. We're all creating a what was our cool space, right? Like something that we want to do, but the journey is difficult. And some of the guests that he had at the speakeasy was, and actually the people who paid to be there, the community there, um, really learning from them. And I'm a mastermind junkie. I love going to. In fact, I'm here. That's why I'm in Dallas. I'm here with Brandon Straza, and he's doing a power content workshop. So we're here to enjoy time with him and learn something from every single person that I'm blessed to come in contact with. So it's again, it's the journey.
And I've interviewed Brandon for those want to listen to Brandon's episode. I don't know what number it is, but it's like a couple of years back. So just search him.
The two of you little smart Alex, I am going to go back and search that because I would love to hear that podcast. I bet the two of you hammering it out was a fun
uh,
interview.
I needed therapy after that one.
I bet.
No, I mean it's funny because there's a story there with Brandon, and it started out. I met Brandon at the Speakeasy in San Francisco,
Okay.
And I didn't know anybody at this event except Steve and Henry. And when I travel, I take my backpack, and I always have, you know, not medicine, but aspirin of some sort, because I get these headaches from the constant pressure changes. So we're
Yeah.
on this bus going to Tesla, and Brandon says, "Does anybody have any aspirin?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." And I threw him a bottle, and he took what he needed, and he brought it and gave it back to me. And from that point on, we had this great conversation, and it led to friendship, and he's referred me to places, and I've made money, and if it wasn't for that aspirin, would I have ever known him? Would I have ever
Well,
got to
that's
know him
so
how?
funny.
And so every one of us has these situations that we're put in.
Yeah.
How we respond and how we react
Yep.
can make or break you.
Oh yeah, Brandon, if you're listening, I thought you were a little smartass, and then we were able to share a Uber ride to the airport. Just randomly, we were in the hotel lobby at the same time, and Travis, and I ended up in an Uber together, and yeah, have loved the dude ever since. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, there's characters out there that you're going to meet that maybe, at first impression you think, wow, he's a dumbass. I've never said that about Brandon. Don't get me wrong. But, there are people who have called me that, or have, say, hey, Rob, you're a regular asshole. Because the sarcasm just doesn't bounce right across them.
well, Travis loves you. My
And
Travis,
and and
he really
and
digs your sarcasm.
and then there are people that embrace you so bad. But I've turned situations around where people have called me names, and then the next thing they're my best friend, and it's like so
Yeah.
I've never been a one for that whole first impressions thing, because
Mm-hmm.
I usually ruin the whole first impression anyway. So for me, it's the second or third or fourth, or until they get that restraining order against me, I can just keep
Right.
on going back.
Right. Right. I love it.
Yeah.
Well,
So
yeah, that's one of the things that I coach to as well, because when you're in the space and you have these teams and you have 15 different personalities, most of them are female, really getting to know someone, understanding that we all have a personality that's it's not meant to offend, that we are just living our lives, and we have our preferences and our tendencies, and the more that you can just appreciate people for what they bring to the table and enjoy what you what you like, let go what maybe you don't, and yeah, and that's true in business everywhere.
yeah, and sometimes I go to a seminar now, and I sit in the corner because nobody wants to approach me, because we had this conversation and they're like, shit, I'm gonna end up in his books. Forget it. No. So yeah, it's a lonely world that we live in, these as an entrepreneur, but we have
Well,
to
we
make
have
it
three or
through.
four of your books at home. One of them, you talk about uh, just like the constant barrage of people who and how much fun you have with sending them on their way with their ridiculous marketing
You know,
tactics. I love I
as
laugh so
we're
hard.
as we were on this call, a few calls came up across my phone as scam likely, and I'm like, oh, I need to pick it up, but I'm on this podcast. I can't do that. So
That's
yeah,
fun.
and I'm not even allowed to answer the home phone anymore, because I have this tendency, as soon as it rings, I want to go answer it and see what I can, what sarcastic reply I can. And my wife's like, get away from the phone, don't even answer it.
Behave.
So it's I can only answer it on my cell phone now. I've been
That's
restricted.
funny. That's
So,
funny.
but we kind of got sidetracked there for a little bit, but for you, it's where do you go from here? You've done the dental practice, you've tried to do coaching, you went back to dental, because that is your strength. That's where you shine, and that's where you. And I hate to say the word comfortable, because we
Yeah.
all feel, we're all told to get out of that comfort zone and expand and stretch, but sometimes we as entrepreneurs need to be in that comfort zone to be able to grow a little bit differently.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't exactly know what's next for me. I really do love the event space. I do love bringing people together. So as much as I love working in individual offices, I love the idea of being collaborating more. So and I also enjoy doing events with other people as well. So doing some co-collaboration with other consultants and creating that event space. But there's a lot of events out there and it's a tough racket to break into. So
Yeah.
that would definitely be putting me out of my comfort zone, even though I've done my own event. I've only done one and it was wonderful to do. Like I loved the process, but it is really hard to get in front of people. And because like you said, there's a lot of noise out there. Um, so just being able to draw them into your space and get in front of the right people. And I love Charleston. I trying to grow my own community there because I'm kind of a newbie there. So I really have been marketing pretty heavily to just the people in my community, even though I'm perfectly happy to work across the country.
Yeah. I mean, what I found is because I had a local service business for 19 years and everybody in the community knew me, I didn't have any I couldn't go out anywhere. We couldn't enjoy a dinner because people would know me and they would come up to me. And so I don't want to know anybody in my local area anymore.
Yeah.
I enjoy having a coaching business that reaches the far reaches of the world.
Yeah.
And I can, I can travel when people don't recognize although every time I go to Dallas, somebody in the airport, I'm like running away.
Well, dental practitioners have this, dentists, they have the same issue too, right? Because many of them practice in their
Right.
they live where they practice, and it's exhausting to not be able to go anywhere without running into your patients. And so yeah, I know what you're talking about.
What's one of the best systems or marketing advice that you've given one of your clients?
Well, I think, and it was something I learned. I'll give a shout out to Coach Burt because he was talking about, I went to one of his little masterminds and he was talking about becoming a person of interest. And I think it's the best marketing tool that you can do. Get out there doing things that you really love. Mm-hmm. And so that is the best marketing tool ever. You attract people like you when they know what you're about and they know what you're out doing. And you, give service in ways that might surprise people. So as much as you don't necessarily want to be a person of interest, it's a very inexpensive way to market when you're out doing things that you love and you relate and connect with people.
Yeah. My experience dealing with, lawyers and doctors, I don't have a lot of dentists as clients, but maybe they're a little different, but I know lawyers and doctors have a terrible, they don't have any charisma. I can't say charisma.
Right. Yeah, well, they're scientists, right? They're
yeah, they have when you speak to them the first time and it's like, oh, God, get a sense of humor, get something, you're like a Vulcan, no emotion. And so, dentists may be a little different. Some of them I know have humor. I probably because they're around, nitrous oxide too long. But that's the one thing I think people forget, that they're a personal brand.
Yeah.
It's not just a dental practice. It's Dr. Smith's, whatever. And yeah, when you go out, people see you.
Well, right. And how do you stand out when you provide the same services as the next 3 practices down the street, right? I mean, there's only so many different services you can provide. So the only way to stand out is to be you.
Yeah.
So that's the best marketing advice I can give.
Right. And when you're dictated by the same pricing for the insurance and everybody's taking the same insurance and all the offices kind of look the same, and you got to stand out as your own personal brand, and you have to be, I can't say nice to people, but you have to run your business in such a way that it appears that you're nice, and then you can be a curmudgeon when you're not around anybody.
Well,
which
and it's kind of cool because it doesn't even have to be necessarily where you become the I personality who's, hey, everybody, hang out with me. It can be in little simple ways, like maybe mountain biking is your thing and you're out, talking about your passions, your hobbies. That's how people get to know you. I think we tend to want to keep our private lives private, and I'm not suggesting you share everything, but I do think that sharing your passions and sharing your hobbies and and also being able to give back in some of those ways that you love, right? Because then they see your service side.
right.
You don't, and like you said, many of them may appear, they're clinicians, they're artists, they're scientists, they're maybe not necessarily, but I haven't met one that I haven't enjoyed. They have a funny side. They have, uh, you know, great personalities as well, and,
Yeah, we
and they don't always have a chance to show it.
we have a local dentist around here, and for the first 2 years, that he came into this practice, people were complaining because his prices were a little higher, and but he did spend a little bit more time with you, and then he bought a Hummer, and these Hummers are very expensive things, and people were like, well, he's got a Hummer, and look how much he's charging. I can't afford that. And I guess he heard these complaints building over time, so he kept his Hummer at home and bought basically a piece of crap Honda, drove that to work, and then people were okay with paying his high prices again. So sometimes
Interesting.
there's a perceived value,
Yeah.
and people don't mind paying a little bit more if they're going to get you, but they don't want to see that you're advertising all the stuff that you're buying. And I'm like, it is what it is. But
It is interesting because if you were doing well and driving around, your Mercedes, it's interesting how we judge each other. But that you're right, there is that perception there when you're putting out the dollars, and it gets frustrating, I think, for patients as well as the practitioner when it comes to insurance because you have insurance, but yet you have this big ass bill at the end of your treatment. It's like, well, I thought I had insurance for that. Well, people just do not understand what insurance really means. It means, getting robbed and then and then still having to pay, I don't get me started on insurance. I feel like it's kind of the mafia. But yeah, so it goes both ways. So I do think patients are very critical of how their practitioners are spending their money. I kind of am of the opinion that's probably not any of their business. We're all in business to make money, right?
that's right.
We're not in business for free.
No, and that's the problem with a lot of entrepreneurs. And I think that it's not that the free thing; it's that we don't know what to charge.
Yeah,
And
that's a truth. That is a truth.
and I think that they're afraid to charge more. As I kind of use that example is for dentists, they got all these insurances that they're accepting. The insurance pays them the same price, so you're like, okay, I can't charge any more. What do I do? And maybe then you stop accepting insurance. You create your own program that the money comes to you immediately, and you're not waiting 6 months or longer for a fraction of what you wanted to charge.
Yeah, there's a
And
lot of fear around leaving insurance companies. It can be done, and it needs to be done strategically over time.
mhm,
You don't want to walk into work, then tomorrow and decide, I'm sick of taking insurance and drop them, right? There's a strategy to it, and it can be done very well, and many do it very well. And most people, if they understood their insurance, would realize they're not really losing much by not going to a PPO provider, right? So it's educating them. I think we do a really terrible job
right.
in our industry of educating patients as to what insurance really means for them, and uh, and what it really covers and how it really protects them. At the end of the day, there's you you know
Yeah, and I think packaging your services in such a way that I still get these emails every day. Hey, hire one of our VAs for $7 an hour. Okay, great. But here's the thing is, as a marketer, I don't think on hours. I don't think on dollars per hour. I think on monthly retainer. I think on monthly packages. I think on options. You know, how can I just say, hey, my price is X amount a month, and that's what you pay. You know, I think when people start to think and or not even demonetize their own service, but they say, well, I'm only going to charge $50 an hour, but maybe it's not enough. Maybe you need to charge $300 an hour, but you can't tell people I'm charging $300 an hour because if they're like, wow, I can't afford that. But if you say, hey, my service is $3,000 a month and it includes this, this, and this, they're going to go, oh, that sounds like a deal.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a fear of overcharging, but there's also most people don't know their numbers, so they don't know really what they should be charging because they don't know what it even costs to run their business. I've been guilty of that. It's just like I need to be doing this. I'll find a way to pay for it. But at the end of the day, what does it really cost to run my business? What does it cost to create the lifestyle that I want to live? And so there's knowing your numbers. It really is an important thing, but I think a lot of entrepreneurs do not.
Right. And as we can see, you're traveling, to these great adventures. You're doing masterminds. That all costs money, and so you have to factor all that stuff into what you're charging.
Exactly.
Because if you do want to travel, you do want to learn more, and eventually charge more. You got to charge enough that encompasses all the learning that you're going to have to do.
Well, just like Napoleon Hill said, as you become more specialized in your knowledge, yes, traveling, learning more, being a part of these conferences and doing that's an expense that you need to cover somehow.
Right. And then taking that personal brand that you've established over the years, whether for me it's sarcasm and I write my books and do this, and you have to learn to tap into that so that you can share those adventures in your blogs, in your social media. If you're going to write a book, there's nothing worse than picking up a dental book and going, God, this is boring. I want to know more about why you did this. I want to know that personality behind you. And so if I read your book and then go to your dental office and you're the sarcastic guy and it reflects that in your book, I'm gonna, you're my guy or gal or whatever. But if I read this technical thing that bores the piss out of me, and then I go to meet you, I'm like, no, screw that. I'm going to someone else.
Yeah.
It's got to resonate.
It does. Absolutely does. Hey, Rob, will you teach me to be more witty? I need a refresher on being more funny too.
We can do that. Okay. So how do people get a hold of you? Where do they go?
I'm on all the social media channels. My company is called S3 Dental Growth Agency. But of course, Laura Johnston. Most stuff is just under my personal name. I'm on all the pages, LinkedIn, Facebook. Our website is s3growth.com. So yeah, any of those places are a great place to get to me.
I'll put the link down below for those watching this on YouTube.
Awesome. Thank you.
For those on audio podcast, you'll have to just remember
it. Laura Johnston.
Yeah, and for those that want to stalk her on social, don't. Because I met Travis, and Travis will kick your butt. Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, he's looking forward to reconnecting with you, Rob. It'll be fun.
I don't know if that's good or bad. A beer should be involved of some sort. Although I don't drink as much as I used to. Darn it, People are like, hey, Rob, can I buy you coffee? No. Can I buy you a beer? No. How about an iced tea? And they're like, no, you're strange. But yeah, it's my drink of choice nowadays. And it's just, as I get older, it's like, alcohol doesn't.
Yeah. Anyway. Well, I meant to have a coffee today. It turns out I took a sip and it turns out I actually made English breakfast. So that was a little shocking on that first sip.
Yeah, tell Brandon that he needs to upgrade your coffee today.
That's right. I will tell him that you said hello and that we were laughing over his podcast. And I'm going to hang up with you, Rob, and watch it immediately so I can harass him a bit.
Yeah, so I will get you the link. And for all those that are watching this, maybe I'll put the link, but most likely I'll just tell you go find it because, you know, I need you to work for it.
Put in a little effort, right?
And put a little effort into it. Yeah. So all those that are listening, thank you for joining in, and please go visit. I got a cough again. Darn cough. Anyway, please visit Laura at her websites and her social, and visit her in South Carolina.
Yes, come to Charleston.
Charleston. Yeah. So anyway, thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Adios.